Hi everybody, this is Karen Palmer and I am your host of Living on Purpose TV, where you're going to get all the tips, strategies, and techniques to live your life with purpose and passion. And I'm so blessed to have an incredible guest today. One of my dear friends, Michelle Hunting, is here. She's a fellow dog trainer, and she's also just the sweetest, kindest, most gentle soul that has so much wisdom to help us to take dog training to the whole next level. And she's a wonderful author and a radio host herself. She will be doing a YouTube channel, and you just want to be in her following because she is just a wonderful person, and you're going to be so grateful that you got to hear this show. So I want to just welcome Michelle.
Thank you so much, Karen, for having me.
Oh, Michelle, I'm so happy to see you. And I want to ask you, would you just give us a little bit of information about what you do and why you do it?
Sure. Well, I'm a double nationally certified professional dog trainer. That's such a mouthful. Mm-hmm. I started working with dogs as a pet sitter when I was a child, and I just love animals. So I'm so grateful that I get to work with them every single day because it's my life purpose.
And you have an institute to train other dog trainers.
I do. Right? I have my own business where I train pet owners, and then I also have Kenyon Canine Institute, and we're actually a post-secondary institute in the state of North Carolina for professional dog trainers. So keeps me busy. And I've written 3 books, and I have a podcast on Blog Talk Radio as well. So.
And that's wonderful. And you're also a mom. How old are your children now?
I have 2 identical twin boys. They just turned 4 years old at the end of this month, so they keep me pretty busy too.
Wow. You are such an inspiration, Michelle. You really are. You know, you keep yourself so purposeful and you do so much in the world. I want to know, is there something, that helped you along the way that you might have saw as a stumbling block in the beginning, but you were able to turn it into a stepping stone? Was there anything that you'd like to share about that?
Yeah, I think, you asked me this question a little bit earlier, so I've had some time to put a little bit of thought into it. But I think really for me, especially when you came into my life, which was, 3 years ago now? Gosh, that's going to come by fast. But just looking back from when I left my parents' house, even through my 20s, I would say till about 29, one of the things that I really had to overcome was fear. Fear of what other people thought of me, fear of failing. I didn't want to fail my parents. I had to go through with what people thought about me, like what I chose as my career, because I kind of felt pressured to go a certain path. Or just letting my family or my friends down, even with the choices that I had to make in my relationship. So there was a lot of fear that I had to work through. And then once I felt like I worked through all of that, and I finally felt like I reached a level of success in my professional life, then I had fear of success. So I had to work through all of these things, and really the theme was fear. And when you think about fear, and you finally work through it, you're like, gosh, first of all, it's paralyzing. You're drained of all of your energy.
Right. It's two choices with fear. It can either be paralyzing or propelling. And the thing about fear is that when we go into that state of fear, we can be very paralyzed. But we can also see it as, I had the same fear. Fear of success was terrifying for me.
Yeah.
But fear of failure was pretty scary, too.
Right. What is up with this fear thing? It's like, oh, I don't want to fail. Oh, my gosh, I just succeeded. Oh, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah. It's crazy, huh? But it's really, the people who are listening, all, we've all experienced that. And the thing is that every successful person has had to have some failure along the way.
Right.
And if we just keep standing up, and we keep getting up. Every time we get knocked down, we just get up. And I think each time we get up a little stronger. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, and even like one of my, I'm the biggest fan of Walt Disney, and we went to Walt Disney World, and I watched the movie on his life, and he failed. But look at the huge thing he created, and the amount of lives still to this day that he impacts through the movies and everything that he created. I love it. So yeah.
And exactly, they thought he was crazy. They thought he was too creative. They thought he was too creative, and they thought Einstein was, he couldn't even stay in school because he was so, he was considered, everything that he did was considered crazy. But, that's why I believe that, we have these gifts, and that the more that we share and shine our light in the world and in the places that are dark, the more that we share our light, the more we start to transform and help the planet and everyone and all the living beings on it, especially the dogs. So what would you suggest for somebody who might be listening for an action step? I like to give, like I tell each week, I ask people to have a notebook handy so that they can write down these action steps and, make themselves be accountable so that they can really change their life if they really want to. So what would be some of the steps that you would suggest for somebody who was really motivated and really ready to live their life in purpose?
Yeah. So I have a really good example of my first action step. A couple weeks ago, I went into a business meeting, and I love my 30s. I absolutely love my 30s because I finally feel like I know who I am. And I went into my meeting, and I had I went in there with 3 things I wanted, and I walked away with all 3. And I asked my business partner, "Did you get everything you wanted from that meeting?" And he's like, "I didn't." Yeah, sure. So I think the number he didn't go in with purpose. So I think that for me, one of the first action steps is to know what you want and don't take no for an answer. And I think that rings true for business, but that rings true for relationships. What do you want from your friendship? What do you want from your partner? What do you want in life? And it surprises me so much that people haven't even thought about it. But how can you live on purpose if you're not going in with a purpose?
I agree.
You have to know what you want, and you're going to walk away with it. But if you go in not knowing, that's ultimately deciding too, if you don't have anything. So that's my number one step in living on purpose, is to know what you want and don't take no for an answer.
I love that.
Yeah. The other thing is, how do you want people to remember you? Because people will remember you by how you treat them. And so when I come into contact with people, I have 3 goals. I want them to experience love, I want them to experience respect from me, and I want them to feel like they've been heard. And so no matter what, if it's business, if it's friendship, if it's a grumpy person on the phone, I want them to experience those 3 things. And here I have a story for you, because I was training at a pet shop. It was a few years ago. And this gal came in. She wasn't a student of mine. She could have been a potential student. She was very, very short with me. And I immediately wanted to just be like, well, whatever. But I had my 3 things: the love, respect, and feeling of being heard. And what ended up happening, and this was several years ago, and to this day we're actually pretty good friends. And she was a client of mine, a repeated client of mine. So you don't know what people are going through. She actually had just lost her dog, her puppy.
Wow.
You don't know what's happening. But I feel so deeply that every person, no matter what, deserves those 3 things from me. So that's my second.
I like to just say something about that. What if every person on the planet thought that way? What if every person on the planet thought that was what their purpose was too? To make every person feel loved, respected, and heard. Yeah. Don't you think we could totally heal the planet? Like, I mean, honestly, when you think about that, it's really that simple. Like, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your political background is, no matter what your outside circumstances are, those three things could totally change the planet. And thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing those. That's, you know, I just had a deep conversation with my sister about this the other day because, you know, we get so wrapped up in all the problems of the world instead of really looking at what are the simple solutions and how can we look at each other with similarities instead of differences. I mean, these other countries that we look at, they're just like us. There's so many similarities, you know, and the things that we're doing to each other, you know, it's just like we have to start to change the way that we treat one another. It's just so important. What a beautiful, beautiful action step. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what's your third one?
My third one, I just had a really detailed conversation with a business partner and a friend about this, and it's balance. And oh man, I have learned such a hard way on this, and I'm still, every day, it's such a challenge, but when you're living on purpose and you're being divinely guided, you know, like you get all this information and you hit the road running. You're going 100 miles an hour by faith. You're like, oh gosh, I hope there's more road up ahead because I have no idea.
Exactly.
And you get so focused in on what God has for you and fulfilling that purpose that sometimes, a lot of times, things get out of balance. And you forget about, at least for me, your body, your mind, your soul, and your family and your friends. And it can be so simple too. Like I was just talking to one of my best friends about this. My kids have been one of my biggest teachers because it's like, hey, mommy, let's blow bubbles. So I'm like working hard on my computer doing what I need to do, and I'm like, okay. So I take a step outside and I enjoy nature. I feed my soul. I enjoy my children. And it took 15 minutes of my day.
Right.
In that moment. And then I'm back to work again. Or it's just simple things like I was driving home from training last week and there was the lake and I'm like, oh, my soul really needs that. And I stopped for 15 minutes. So I am able to work as hard as I am, but still create that balance so I can feed myself or make sure I have time for that meditation of getting up 15 minutes early. That's all it takes. But I think for me, when I had a pet food shop, a training facility, I was working well over 80 hours a week. I was not feeding my body the right food. I was a mess. And I didn't even realize how poorly I was treating my family or how grumpy. To the outside world, I was put together, but I think my family kind of took the brunt of me being out of balance. But at the time, I couldn't even see it. So I think that from experiencing that in my early 20s and just from doing the Institute, everything, I've learned that it's so important for me to get rest, to eat right, and to make time for my soul and my family. So balance.
Wow. That is so awesome, Michelle. It is so great that you are really finding these ways in your business, in your family life. It is all about balance. Everything is about balance, and the thing is that when we're so terrified that we're not going to be successful, we just keep trying and we go into every different direction instead of listening to spirit, instead of really, really listening to our inner guide, our inner teacher. We're just like all about, okay, I got to get this done, and I got to publish this book, and I got to, get this going, and I got to figure that out. And the thing is when you take a deep breath and you start to just realize, okay, I do have a purpose here. There's a reason for why I have all this knowledge and why this wisdom is coming through me at this time and why the world needs it so desperately. And so there's like this sense of surrender that once you let go of that fear of success and the fear of failure, it's like you can take a breath, you can blow bubbles, you can go catch butterflies, you can go, they'll come right to you, actually, if you're in the space of, I am kind, I am loving, I am peaceful, they will come right to you. And, it's all about energy, and that's what's so exciting about the work that we do with the animals. And so I'd love to have you just share a little bit about how people can go deeper with you, possibly get some of your books, maybe even have your radio show, and also please let us know the link for your YouTube channel that you're putting together. We're really, really inspired by you. You're an inspirational person, and I just want to thank you so much for your friendship and for your wisdom and for you just really showing up in the world, because the more you show up in the world, the more other people will realize it's not so scary to show up, It's not so scary. It's actually pretty darn fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Living on purpose and letting the fear go, it is so awesome. It's freeing. Oh, my gosh.
It's like it's a playground, That's what I've heard in my meditation is we have two choices. This is either a prison or a playground. Those are the two choices. And the other two choices are we can choose love or we can choose fear. But when we choose fear, we're not choosing faith. And so that's the thing. When I start to feel myself actually going into fear, I just stop what I'm doing. I stop and I listen and I say, okay, first of all, inner critic, be silent. Inner critic, I've made my friendship with my inner critic. I've gotten to the point where I'm actually real gentle with her. And I used to yell at her to shut up. Now it's like now I see that she is just as scared, and just this little girl. That's that little girl in me that is still looking for outside approval and external validation. And when I go within and I get that internal validation, I don't need it outside anymore, Yeah. So how would people get in touch with you?
They can visit my website. It's my name. It's michellehunting.com, and there's 2 L's and 2 T's in my name. And all my information is on my homepage, so they can find my blog, my podcasts, my YouTube channel, my books. Everything is on michellehunting.com.
That's so awesome. Yeah. So is there anything that you'd like to say as we close this interview? Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Karen. I appreciate it.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners about if they're on their journey? Is there something you would share with somebody who is living in a little bit of fear?
Yeah, I think that for me, overcoming it, obviously I had the support of loving people like you talking me through those moments. But I think really just a lot of meditation, a lot of mantras of truth, even scripture, a lot of focusing on prayer, and then really recognizing who I am as a child of God and what that means. Because the Bible says perfect love casts out all fear. So that came to mind when you were talking. So I was just like aligning myself with the truth constantly, and even sometimes just writing it down and having that on a piece of paper. And that's what helped me move through that fear.
That's such a great way for us to end the show. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom, all your kindness, and really, let's just think about that for a minute. Like, what could this planet be if we would be loving and respectful and have people that are in our lives really heard and validated? Maybe if we could set that as our intention. I'm going to set that as my intention from this day forward. I'm going to really, really be conscious about making sure that I bring love and respect and validation and making sure people feel heard. That means so much to me that you brought that up. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me, Karen.
Yeah, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And we will see you again soon. We'll definitely have you back. Now, what were the names of your books so people can search for those on Amazon?
The one that just came out October 1st is Come Boy. And I have a book Control on Leash, and also have Gotta Go, Successfully Potty Training Your Dog.
I've given so many of my clients Gotta Go. What a great, great book that is. You know, all of Michelle's books are really, really insightful, and there's so much that she puts into. She puts her heart and soul, and she does so much research. So her books are so incredibly helpful for anybody who really wants to have a better relationship with their pets. So I highly recommend it.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.